Hey, what's going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video on Marvel's Strike Force. Today is Saturday. I'm going to do what I said I was going to do in my blog post, the Road Ahead blog post video, and that is to talk about Spotlight Raid. I feel like we need to spend a little bit more time talking about this because what they're asking us to do, which is honestly really just going to be a couple weeks from now, is a lot of characters that are going to require to have purple ISO. So I want to talk about the requirements for the raid. I want to talk about what they're asking us to do and kind of how much we're getting right now and how reasonable it is. That being said, I totally don't expect, anyone at Scopely to watch this. I just want the player base to really understand exactly what you're going to need to do. And this is going to make a pretty big deal, I think, if you're pre-Odin or even if you're just a little bit post-Odin. I actually, you know what? I actually ran into some purple ISO problems for the first time after finishing getting ready my character. So all that and more in today's video. So if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. So I didn't spend a lot of time talking about this yesterday, and I want to kind of cover this with the Spotlight 2 prologue. So this is coming on January the 3rd. This is the release date, I'm pretty sure, for Jean Grey, which is in about 2 weeks' time, right? Like we're not actually that far away. Well, just under 2 weeks' time, right? It's on a Friday. So we're not that far away from this coming out. Now, the interesting thing is that you only need 4 Uncanny Avengers for their mission. However, I do want to stress that you need 4. Jean Grey is the 4th character. So if you do not have Jean Grey unlocked, you cannot do this, right? A lot of people didn't think about that, I guess, at first, because even though, yes, it is coming before Hercules and you can do it with 4, you still need to have Jean Grey unlocked to do these missions. It's very important that we understand that. So basically, this is me telling you that, if you don't want to spend your money, make sure you have about, I don't know, 8,000 plus power cores that you're going to be able to unlock Jean Grey on day 1 because it's going to be the exact same day that these raids launch, and people need to be prepared for that, okay? This is the prologue version, which is going to... did it say actually how long it's going to be there? I'm not sure if it specifically said how long we're in the prologue section or in this kind of period of time. But we are going to get... They kind of let us know what we're going to be getting in the prologue anyway. So ability materials, there's probably more T4 ability materials, some red gear, which we're already kind of getting in Spotlight 1. Gold, also already getting that. And then Path to Jean Grey Orb Fragments. So I imagine it's just a little bit more of everything else. And Hercules Diamond Orb Fragments, which will be very limited during the Spotlight 2 prologue. So there's also going to be Battle World credits for first time rewards as you scale up the difficulty. Now they talk about the difficulties here. And actually no, they so you know what? Actually, they don't say if there's going to be more than one difficulty on the prologue. Maybe there's not. And they do talk about they're doing what they did with the Orcus raid, right? They're separating between Spotlight 2 and Spotlight 2 Strike. And Strike is the harder version, or what we're used to right now. More lanes, more missions. And I guess this will be interesting as compared to the current Spotlight 1. Because we did complain a little bit that these were very narrow and didn't have a lot of nodes, right? It was 2, 3, 4, and then the final boss. So it was like 9 nodes shared between 2 people typically, and then a final boss. You could like I cleared the most of our alliance. We got like 90% in the first 5 hours, right? So like this isn't pretty hard to do. So we'll see whether or not Spotlight 2 adds more nodes that are shared between the 2 members of your alliance on the sections, or how they decide to do that. It does almost, because it's bolded, it almost suggests that there might be a little bit more than there was in Spotlight 1, because this was a bit of bone of contention. All the Spotlight 2 raids, including the prologue, okay, there you go, will possess 3 difficulties, normal, D1, and D2. Now, I do want to stress the difficulties and the requirements for that. Spotlight 2 prologue is a separate raid from Spotlight 2. There are 2 separate raids that go live after Hercules becomes available and replace Spotlight 2 prologue. So there you go. And really, it just has, as we mentioned above, the prologue only requires 4, but Spotlight 2 Strike requires 5. Now, I was right. It's Alpha Flight and Uncanny Avengers, who we'll talk about in a little bit here. But the requirements that you need to have them, it doesn't say when Spotlight 2, like the regular one's going to launch. Maybe it's going to launch alongside Hercules like 2 weeks later. I don't know if we're going to have the prologue for that long. Maybe we'll have it for a little bit more. We'll have to find out, in the new year when when they kind of release the date for that, at least the strike version of it. Now, There is no ISO requirement. I think it's actually so I heard, from my source that there's a blue 5 requirement. Not that that's a big deal anymore, but I'm surprised it just says no ISO requirement. I think there's still an ISO requirement, but hey, we'll find out when it launches. D1 is going to be purple 2, and D2 is going to be purple 3. Now, the purple 2 isn't that bad. I think you're looking at about, what is it, like 60K? Like it's not a lot. Like, comparatively to I have the sheet here, actually. I should have just brought it up. So, purple 2, I haven't had to bring this up in a while. Purple 2 costs 72K to upgrade a character, and then purple 3 costs a total of 360K. So this is the interesting part and why this is going to be really challenging, especially for people who are kind of working their way towards Odin, and even people who are immediately kind of post Odin. I think this might be a lot of characters that you're going to have to bring up, and we're going to address that in a little bit here. As far as the Spotlight Raid 2 rewards, I imagine this is talking about regular rewards, but it's literally what they just repeated above. Ability materials, Crimson Gear, Gold for limited time, Path to Hercules Orbs. So, I mean, I guess the only thing that changed, I believe the prologue said Path to Jean Grey Orbs, and so that's the only change. But are we going to be getting G20 anytime soon? Because that's what I've been wondering. Because when it came to the Road Ahead blog, there was nothing in here that talked about Purple 4-5, nothing that talked about level cap, nothing that talked about G20 gear. So I don't know if they just missed it or if they just intentionally missed it out. If it's going to be added, like, well, I guess I mean, Jean Grey and Hercules are already out, right? So they kind of missed the boat when it comes to adding that. I don't know. When's that coming? That's kind of what I'm curious about, honestly. But let's talk about the characters that you need, right? So they're asking us to have 9/10 characters. If you include Hercules, which you'll eventually need, and that's a lot, I think, in my opinion. Now, I just finished it, like I said. So you're going to need to start with Alpha Flight first. This is going to be the very first section, or the node section, I suppose. There's probably going to be some unrestricted nodes, just like in most of the raids, or at least in the Greek and the Spotlight raids. And so this is my Alpha Flight. I just got them to purple 3. And I don't think you're gonna personally. I don't think you're gonna need gear 19. I wouldn't do that. Ahead of the raid, I would probably be safe with about G1895, maybe G18100, that kind of thing. I don't think that I don't think that gear 19 is going to be necessary. At least not in the beginning. Maybe in the strike version, at D2, maybe that might be a thing. Either way, you can kind of start prepping them now as far as your ISO goes, because you're going to have to do this, right? If you're in a competitive alliance that does raid, and honestly, in my opinion, raids is the number one priority in the game. You're doing this every single day, and the resources that you get, especially because this is your primary way of getting new gear, and I imagine that at some stage that they're going to be putting gear tier 20 into these things, whether retroactively or whatever, right? This is really important for you to do. So Alpha Flight, unfortunately, has become, if you didn't have them like leveled up, if you thought that they were going to go away, they are not. And so this has become a new priority for you to fix up your characters. Now, as far as this is where things get a little bit tricky. As far as the raid priorities for Spotlight 2, it would be this, right? But depending on where you are in your Odin chase, what I really, 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 really don't like is that all 10 of the characters, including the Uncanny Avengers that they're asking us to build for the second team, they are all global hero. Okay, so this is where I have to say that if you are still going through Dark Dimension 8 and have yet to hit the global hero section, I would imagine that there's a good chunk of people who are done. But if you haven't done that yet, I would work on these characters, because I think that while I don't know if they synergize the best in Dark Dimension 8 Global Hero, it's still going to be the best two birds with one stone kind of thing, because it's a lot of ISO, right? So if you haven't gone through this, I highly recommend. Actually, you know what? On my alt account, I started using Beast with Extreme X-Men because I haven't leveled up the other ones yet. Beast actually does really well. So I was quite happy with that, at least with the X-Men synergy. And as far as this goes, so Storm, Beast, and then you could do Wolverine. Not that I really Guardian, I guess. North Star, those kind of characters, right? It's not going to be super fast, and DD8 Global Hero really sucks because you're coming up against a lot of Orcus characters. However, if you were able to wait for like Jean Grey, I think this would actually make a significant difference. She's an X-Men character, right? She has got the X-Men tag, so she's going to do a lot better, like when paired up with characters like Storm and Beast and stuff like that inside of DD8. So that's just something that we kind of have to think about now as far as, where your ISO is going to go. And that means, and that's another thing that I want to talk about is the ISO cost, right? We talked about this. One purple 3 character costs 360K. So I don't even need to bring out a calculator. Just multiply that by 10, you add a zero. It's 3.6 million. If you haven't touched any of these characters at purple ISO, that's how much it's going to take for you to get ready for Spotlight Raid 2. That is a fair bit, in my opinion. Like, I'll show you what, okay, I'm at 2 million. Now, I was at like 5, like maybe a couple of weeks ago. So I've definitely consumed a lot of purple ions in order to get myself ready for this. The problem is actually not even just the ions, it's the crystals as well. The crystals are not, yeah, I know. Okay, sometimes I pull the jackpot, but I have like 10. It's super mismatched. So I have like an 84 over here, and I got like a 10 over here, 10, 10. It's super mismatched. Sometimes you get lucky on one of those orbs, and then it's not really what you want because it just puts your crystals way out of whack. Let's talk about where your purple ions and where your crystals even come from, because right now I feel that they just have not really improved this enough. They've adjusted, they've kind of shifted the Battle World rewards from the purple ISO, and they move that over to Alliance War. The Alliance War rewards are actually about 10 to 15% better than what Battle World was, which is nice. But as far as the purple orbs, the crystal orbs, you only get them on the War Season payout now, which is every 2 weeks. So you're not getting this very frequently. The rest of it, you're kind of at the mercy of events. So whether it's this one ongoing right now, the three French hens, right? And there is some stuff in here. It depends on how hard you push for these milestones, right? So there was, I don't know why it keeps refreshing like this. It's kind of annoying actually. 40,000, 60,000. So that's 100,000, 180,000 with like 5 orbs, 280,000 with 5 orbs. So, they're being a little bit more generous. It depends on how far you can kind of push these milestones. Normally, weekly milestones are somewhere between milestone 13 and 15. This one particular one has a leaderboard. I not even ranking actually, so this is probably not happening. But if you're someone who is still chasing Odin, I definitely recommend to try and get into the top 10,000 if you are able to do that, because even picking this up on a weekly or every 2 weeks is going to help you get there a little bit quicker. But they really need to add this in a little bit more into other places. We do get the weekly alliance milestone right now. We're getting the absolute assault milestone, and there's okay. I believe if I check the purple stuff, it's like 5 orbs. So they actually nerfed this in the last. I don't know if I mentioned this. They actually nerfed it in the last iteration. This milestone up here used to be 30,000 or aka like 15 orbs. Now it's 10 orbs. So you get 10 orbs there and 5 orbs there. So 15 orbs on a weekly basis. This one is actually being replaced by a new Spotlight raid one in a we about in week and a half to 2 weeks. So when we roll over into January, we're going to be moving into a new Spotlight raid milestone. I don't know what that's going to look like, but it is going to require you to do Spotlight Raid in order to get more milestone points. So that'll be interesting as well. And so, just by and large, there hasn't been any new sources of purple ISO. So sometimes, like I said, with the weekly events, it's improved a touch, but we're still needing more and more things. We need more purple ISO and more purple crystals. Also, PS, we need to talk about the Battle World store and how bad, because it's, I guess, is staying around. I guess, because this is going to be funny, because this is supposed to be a monthly event, right? With the new Road Ahead blog. So are they maintaining the store and just leaving it up like infinitely, and then yeah, I guess I hope we get a shit ton of Battle World credits when it comes around every month. But anyways, the crystal costs are absurd. Like, I don't know anyone who has like gone out of their way to buy these because the prices are just out of whack. I cannot, in good conscience, recommend you to do this, even if you're really desperate for like 1 or 2 crystals. Actually, if 1 or 2 crystals, maybe. Any more than that, it's just 30,000 for an orb. It's outrageous. It's so outrageous. So sometimes when you're hurting on the crystals, there's nothing you can do other than open your wallet and spend and buy certain ones. But other than that, you're kind of waiting every week. And I really wish that there was some other way that we could get it more reliably. Maybe there's something we could farm, or maybe there would be something that we could farm, but there's not. And so I think that they need, before they start chucking and requiring purple ISO and so many things, they need to give us more of it. I don't know why I'm in the campaign section. What I wanted to pivot to is, I hate how slow my emulator loads sometimes, but the frozen dimension, right? We all know this is borderline a trap to some extent. Like I'm doing this daily, but I'm not. I don't really care whether or not I clear it or not. I'm just kind of, it gives me something to do. This is not something that I personally recommend people spending their purple ISO on, and frankly, I actually regret upgrading some of my characters just that I tried to push a little bit harder in this, because now that I found out that you need purple 3 to do the new Spotlight raid, I wish I could have clawed back some of the purple ISO I shoved into like my Sinister 6 to try and push this a little bit more. Like, it was pretty stupid of me to do that. I don't know why I did that. And so this is me telling you that you probably shouldn't do that, especially with the knowledge that there's going to be 10 characters that you're going to need to take into Spotlight Raid 2, get your priorities straight and make sure your raid characters are done first. So that's just my thoughts of some things that are upcoming, right? With the Spotlight Raid 2, it's going to be really important, because it's going to where you're going to be getting a lot of your resources on a daily basis. Make sure that you have the resources available to you. Also, if you're working your way through Dark Dimension 8, maybe considering pivoting to some of those characters so that you can double dip, because that'll be your best bang for your buck. So you can kind of save and work your way towards both of them at the same time. If you're kind of in the part where you can't really do that because you're already through Global Hero and you're kind of working on the other sections, it's tough, right? Because you don't want to let your alliance down, but you do want to get that Odin. So it's a struggle. I guess what you could do is you could try and get some of the Alpha Flight characters up to Purple 2, or maybe even Purple 3, and just do Alpha Flight, and then just hold off on Uncanny Avengers if you're still working your way through Odin. They need to give us more. That's it. So I hope that in the new year that we do see more purple ISO stuff coming through events. Maybe even something quasi farmable. That would be great. Something we could buy. Hell, maybe we could use one of these event currency, one of the currencies that we have in the store to like buy purple ISO crystals. That's not the Battle World store. That would be great too. But hey, we'll have to find out. So that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And just get ready, I guess. You have like 2 weeks before Spotlight Raid 2, which is not actually all that long. So you're going to need to get them purple ISOs if you haven't already. So that's going to be it for now. Until the next video, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see y'all later. Boilon signing out.